espera um bocadinho.
Eu sei. Estou a dizer uma tarde a quem me trata.
Já pode.
Boa tarde a todos. Vamos então dar início a mais um seminário integrado no ciclo de seminários do mestrado em Investigação Clínica da Faculdade de Medicina. O meu nome é Inês Cabrita, faço parte da comissão científica deste mestrado e hoje tenho o prazer de estar a apresentar a nossa convidada, a doutora Begónia Escalera, que é coordenadora diária de uma área dedicada ao Patient Engagement em investigação clínica, ao envolvimento dos participantes, e é coordenadora no Instituto de Investigação San Juan de Déu em Barcelona, Espanha. I will switch to English so we can discuss better during this session. It's a great pleasure to introduce you to Begonia. I have met Begonia through the Connect for Children, an European project that we are working together, and where it has a strong commitment to involve the patient and the public in the clinical setting. Begonia has a very long experience in this area, with many initiatives and activities involving children and parents of these children and adolescents. And she's also the coordinator of YPAGNet, which is the European Young Patients Advisory Group Network, and also the coordinator of Kids Barcelona that I'm sure that she will discuss also with you. So it's a great pleasure, Begonia. You can start, and thank you once more to be here with us for our students and for the public that is watching this seminar.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Inés, for this presentation. It's my pleasure to be with all of you. Bona tarda, I think that it's correct in Portuguese, the same words in Catalan. I will share my screen, 1 second. And I'm going to try to introduce to all of you in the next meetings, in the next minute, in the topic of the patient involvement, in this case in the pediatric clinical trial setting, and also I will comment some project and initiative in the innovation setting, because for us pediatric research and innovation, they work very, very close to make advanced science. But first of all, let's speak about the scenario in which we are nowadays performing pediatric clinical trials. It's a little different than a few years ago. As you can see in the screen, we are lucky in some ways because we have more opportunities. We have more clinical studies. You have this slide that it's a very nice view about the exponential growth process in terms of numbers, but also something that we need to take into account is that these studies sometimes are more complex from many different perspectives in terms of the logistics and the execution, in terms of the therapy, in terms of the design, etc. It means that it's so different working nowadays in clinical trials than years ago, and particularly we have some still challenges that we need to solve in general in pediatrics, not in a specific condition. One is that most of the treatments of the medicines that we are prescribing to children and young people have not been studied with this group of population. In this case, it's 50% of them. It's a big number, but when we move to the neonates, to the babies, this number can increase approx to the 90%. It means that in general, the big challenge is that still we need more research in pediatrics, because also we have diseases that only the children, they suffer, and are rare diseases. This means small numbers, and obviously this means less interest of investment. Beyond this, work with children and young people in clinical research, it can be challenging in many ways. What we need to have always on mind is that it's not only the child who is participating in a clinical study. At the end, it's the whole family. And this is an approach that we have on mind always when we work in patient engagement or patient involvement activities, because we need to have on mind this scenario and see if the design and everything around the clinical trial fits for the daily life of the family, knowing that also what a clinical trial entails, it's on top of the disease burden and on top of the standard of care. Some of the problems or the challenges that we have in pediatrics and also in some adult conditions are in regards of the recruitment of the patients. This recruitment can be longer than expected. In some cases, we need to take into account if the criteria, the eligibility criteria, the inclusion and exclusion criteria fits with the disease, because if this study probably come from the adult setting, the disease, even it can have the same name in pediatrics, probably it's a little different, and the criteria probably are challenging to identify patients to be invited to participate in a clinical study. You have here numbers from the adult setting, but as you can see, this delay in terms of recruitment, in general, it's around 50%. 70% of the projects, the delay is at least 1 month. And also another challenge, it's the retention. We know that in some treatments, there is an issue with the adherence, but also in clinical trials, we have an issue with the retention of the patients. And these are issues and elements that we need to take into account when we work with patients to see if in the right moment, when decisions need to be taken in terms of the design of the clinical study, can be adjusted in order to anticipate these delays, because at the end, behind these numbers, it's time, it's money, but the most important thing are the patients. And this is something that sometimes we can anticipate. The reason of our work, the clinicians, doctors, all the professionals involved in clinical trials, all the research teams from sponsors, academic institutions, whatever the role that we can have in the big process of life cycle of a medicine, of a new treatment. The reason of our work, even we think that probably we are so far, are the patients. And for the people that specifically we work in the patient involvement, this is the goal of any activity that we need to do. It's having in mind the perspective of the patients. If we can have in our activities in first person the patients instead of the parents, let's do it, because probably the feedback and the contributions of the patients will be different. If it's necessary and important, we can have both. But our approach is not forget that the children and the young people, they have their own voice, the right to express their opinions and their views. And what we need to make it's this project adapted to them. And here in this slide, you have a very nice example. This is the story of a young patient with the Duchenne muscular dystrophy from the US. This young patient was involved in a clinical study, a long study, along 96 weeks. He had to travel to another state to receive an infusion of this experimental treatment. The process of the infusion every week was painful for him and not a really good experience. And what the family of this patient they did was go to the regulatory agency in the US, the FDA, and say, okay, there is another way to administer the treatment instead of the infusion format. And at the end, what they achieved was with only the request of one family to adjust the clinical trial protocol and offer the option, if the family and the patient accept, to use a portacat to administer this treatment instead of this weekly infusion. This is a very nice example about what the families and the patients can do, and the impact of only one family, one patient in the whole community of patients involved in this study. Some dates in this slide to explain you the progress that in Europe we have had in regards the development of new medicines for children. In 2007, we had the pediatric regulation published. In 2013 was created IMPRIMA. IMPRIMA is the European networks of pediatric clinical research of the European Medicines Agency, and it's a very nice arena for collaboration. There are nowadays, I think, 52 different networks. Some of them are focus disease, other are national networks, such as I4Kids in Portugal, and many other ones that are connected in the Connect for Children project that Ines mentioned at the beginning in the presentation. And also we are nowadays in a kind of cross-cutting network with young advisories groups, providing support to research teams and other stakeholders in pediatrics. In 2017, we had 3 important milestones. The first one was the 10 years report of the pediatric regulation, where still where identify some challenges, the personalized medicine in the pediatric setting, the flexibility about the need to see if it's feasible a pediatric investigational plan in some conditions that we know that we cannot perform these studies, and obviously the very long discussion in regards of the meaning and the different concepts that underneath the concept of unmet medical needs. Also, this year, the agency published a relevant document. The document has the title about principles of the involvement of young patients and consumers in the agency activities. And for us, it's the people working with young people, the opportunity at least to have a guidance to facilitate the contribution of these young people in the IMA activities. The challenge here was that it took time to implement these principles. After, we had kind of 3 years of very limited activity due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And still, I think that it's more important, the dissemination about this document, because there are plenty of entities and patient organizations that they don't know that they can be part of the IMA experts pool of patients, and also that patients in first person representing, in this case, teenagers, can be part of the activities of IMA. And the last milestone of 2017 was the recognition, the accreditation of the European Young Persons Advisory Group network by EMPRIMA, in this case with the category number 4. That means that we don't perform directly clinical trials, but in this case, our commitment with the pediatric clinical research setting is to facilitate the opportunity to include the patient perspective in the design phase, but also along the study. Something that I want to comment to all of you, it's about the real value of the patient's involvement, because sometimes we have only one view from the project, because we are in the pharma side, in the research side, we are in the patient side. But the good thing here is that something that is good for the patient, obviously it's good for the team that is behind the project, because it means that probably you can follow the plan, but also it's good for the project and for the future patients that can participate in this study. And this is the real value of the patient's involvement, achieve this concept that we use a lot for marketing purposes, but not always with the real meaning, the concept of patient centricity. And I always put this example about this change of perspective that it's good to have in science. As you can see in this slide, you see a bridge. And sometimes in some industries or in some fields, we invest a lot in the project, designing in this case the bridge, but not enough time thinking in the people that needs to cross the bridge. And the approach of any activity in regards of patient involvement is to change this perspective and put the patients in the heart of our project. It has benefits, and here's some numbers in regards of the benefit. First of all, we can reduce the time. This data that you have in the slide came from a scientific publication in the adult setting, and it's good, at least in terms of numbers. We don't have this analysis in pediatrics, but it's important not to do the exercise and think, if it's good for the patients and also it's good for the project, let's involve the patients as soon as we can. This reduction of the time to launch the project, if we compare a clinical trial with a patient-centric clinical trial, it can be between 10 and 20%. We can reduce also the time for recruit the patients, the number of 100 patients, close to 3 months, and we can save resources for these 3 months of drug development process, close to 75 million in this case of dollars, because the study was done in the US. The involvement of patients, as I said, for us, it's important to do it as soon as possible. In some projects, we have had the opportunity to involve patients, even not having a first draft of the clinical trial protocol, because it's really important to understand what means the standard of care in some conditions, which is the patient journey, the disease burden, the unmet medical needs, the whole picture about the group of patients in which we are going to do our intervention with the clinical study. There are activities before this, even doing awareness about the need of clinical research in some specific conditions. With patients, we can improve or co-design the recruitment strategies. Obviously, any document such as the consent or the assent of the minor can be improved and validated with the contribution of patients and parents. Strategies to retain the patients in the studies, the follow-up, and obviously until the end of this long process, the patients can also have an active role in the process to review and validate the life summaries with the results of the clinical study. Here's some data about the need to do activities with patients, specifically in awareness, and this data came from a survey done in the UK in 2018. As you can see, I'm not going to go into details, but there are a lot of misconceptions and misinformation in general in the society about clinical research and specifically in pediatrics. And this means that also, even in some cases, we don't have probably an opportunity of a new treatment or a clinical trial in a specific condition. The pedagogy, the education, and the awareness, it's important to be done because we can have a more maturity community of patients, and they can be ready and easily at the moment that we need to recruit patients for research. This can be done for many different ways and formats. For example, an easy way in which you can contribute is if you are a clinician and you know that probably it's going to come soon a new therapy, and that can bring the opportunity of one of your patients to participate in a clinical study. Anticipate this, share resources and materials to explain that a clinical trial, it's not a treatment, it's a research project that still requires time and data to answer the research question when the patient will contribute. But probably at the end of this process, it can be an approved treatment and the patient or future patients can benefit. In terms of the design of the studies, there are plenty of examples in which we can mention that approaching to the patients, we can adjust things that are really important for the patients and can have an impact in the adherence and obviously in the engagement of the patients. In general, anything in regards of the schedule of visits, the medical procedures, it's something that we need to review and take into account that it's the right approach that we have there. As you can see in the slides, sometimes the big number of medical procedures, it's the thing that can decide no in terms of the participation in a clinical study. And also it's important to manage the whole experience, thinking, as I said at the very beginning, not only in the patient, also in the family, because probably there are days really long with plenty of visits, families that they need to travel long distances or even to another country. There are many things in which if we consult the patients in the right moment, probably we can design a better project for them. Obviously, we are not going to change things that from the scientific point of view can be challenging. We are not going to discuss about the mechanism of action of the drug with the patients, but anything close to the experience of the patients, I can explain you that really it's important to be shared with them and validate it. At the end, what we try to do with the patient involvement activities is to put the patient in the heart of our project and see how we can improve the number or how are organized the study visits, the schedules of these procedures, and think if we can offer things beyond what is stated in the protocol. In some projects, for example, we have patients for 4 years, 5 years in a clinical study. They started so young. they probably finish being a teenager or a young adult, and the needs along these many years will be different. Probably they need at some point emotional support or any other complementary information. There is a moment in which they need to reconsent because they are adults and it's not working the assent that they signed time before. There are many things from the scientific point of view of the concept of the protocol, but beyond, and also from the site perspective, that we can improve and adjust, having this close collaboration with patients and parents. And talking again about numbers, you have here a great example of a study also done in the US by the Tufts University, in which they analyze many clinical studies in adults in which patient involvement was done. And they saw that the average of the cost of the patient's involvement activity in this large group of studies that they analyzed was $100,000, but the expected net present value, it means the savings in terms of time, money, etc., were close to 50 million. This is a nice way, because sometimes when you explain that work with patients requires time and obviously resources, this is a nice way to demonstrate that even it's an investment in the project, at the end there is a big revenue of savings that we need to have on mind. In terms of recruitment, also I have mentioned that patients and parents can help in the design of the strategy. We need to think that they are digital, that they are on the media, that they consult information on the internet, and probably also they are part of a patient organization. We need to have a good strategy validated for them in terms to arrive to the right communities of patients to try to start the trial on time, because I said that one of the challenges that we have is that there is a lot of time invested, sometimes longer than expected in the recruitment, and at the end, if a study it's going to finish late than was expected, everything will be late. And the aim of this of our research is to deliver better medicines as soon as we can. We are working with very complex studies such as gene therapy and many other new and complex clinical trials design. And in this sense, it's really important to create the right materials and resources for the recruitment. And another challenge that we have in the recruitment process is the informed consent documents or the assent documents. This data probably in pediatrics will be higher, this 35%. But the point here to discuss about the informed consent is that still we are working with documents that are not aligned with the proposed. The informed consent, the proposal that it has is to facilitate the process to inform and to get the agreement of the patient and the parents to participate in a clinical study. And these are really long documents with really complex terminology. At the end, the parents and also the patients, sometimes they don't read the document and they trust in the information and the decision or co-decision with the doctors. And here there is a big gap in which still we need to improve. And one way to do it in terms of the content and the format of this document, it's involving the patients and the parents in this experience. Another element in regards of the consent and the ESN is the use of electronic tools. I suppose that probably you are aware that everybody is talking about the ESN or the e-consent, but at least in pediatrics and in our site that we are managing nowadays more than 200 clinical trials, none of them it's using these tools. Still, there are challenges in terms, of the legal stuff in regards the data of the patients, but also something that we always consider when we have been assessing these tools is that in some cases what they are offering, it's a digital copy of the paper copy document, or in other cases, it's not a tool with design friendly for the young patients. Still, there is a lot to be done in this field, and what we want to see in the future is that we take advantage of the benefits of the technology and not only, as I said, scan the document and transform this to a digital copy. One important key message for the retention or in general for any activity of patient involvement in clinical trials and in innovation, it's think first in the patient and second in the trial or in the project. Because if not, we are going to have a bias. And I think that what is important in these activities is to be objective, offer the right environment to collect the feedback and contributions of the patients and the families, and see how we can provide to them the better experience, having on mind, as I said, that some studies can last many years. In this sense, there are many other opportunities in which we can involve patients and caregivers. As you know, plenty of clinical trials, they are using tools like the PROs, the patient-reported experience measures, quality of life questionnaires, etc. Here also there is a big an important area to get data and to include in the analysis of the outcomes of the studies. But also it's really important to take the decision about the right tool for trials, because still we are seeing in some projects tools that we are asking things that and questions that are not the right ones for the patients, even they have been validated for the condition. You can see if these tools are accepted by the patients and the caregivers, if they prefer to complete it in a digital tool. You can do many activities with them in order to take the right decision when you are designing the clinical trial protocol. Other areas in which we can involve the patients, it's even the trial has finished, the treatment is approved. There are new opportunities to involve the patients, and here you have a nice example about the leaflet of a treatment, in which it's also important to have the feedback of the patients, because it's a document addressed for patients and parents, and we need to be sure that they understand this information, and also to include them in innovative projects to see if we can make it more friendly and more easy, this information. For example, moving from the paper copy format of the leaflet to an electronic tool in which we can easily access to the information that we need to consult anytime that we want. Also, there is another opportunity beyond the trial to involve patients and parents. These are the patient support programs that nowadays many treatments are offering to the patients. You can see here one example about the long list of activities that these PSP activities include. And it's so nice to ask to the patients if they think that it's good or necessary, for example, to have psychological support, or how we can empower them in the management of the disease with training, etc. There are many activities, as I said, even before we have the trial, but also after a treatment it's approved. At the end, it's to make it more empower the community of patients and parents, and help them to have the right tools to manage their disease. This is another example. We can create educational materials, electronic tools, etc. And also they can help in some way to take decisions in the right moment. And for this, what we need to have in mind is about how we can get this information. Usually young people, they don't like too much questionnaires, but for some projects we need the questionnaires to collect this information. For other projects, we are working with other methodologies such as focus groups or simulation that I'm going to explain afterwards. But here and in the next slides, I have selected some examples about activities that we can do for patients. Here, it was a questionnaire that we did in collaboration with the European medicines agencies about some preferences of the young people in regards to the acceptability or the difficulty to take some different formulations of treatments, from injections to the inhaled medicines or solid medicines, liquid or cream. And it was so nice because in this project we collaborated with groups of young people from different European countries, and also an important element that we need to take into account, not only for the design and the execution of clinical trials, also for PPI activities, is the diversity. There are sometimes many cultural elements or elements connected with the standard of care of the patients that affect the decision or the preferences of the patients. And it's important, when your project is more than one country, multi-country or European, to involve patients and parents from different European countries. This is another project that we did in the past about the use of technology in the clinical trials for the informed consent decision, and also in regards of informative materials and resources. And here, as you can see in the slides, we are speaking and involving digital natives, and obviously they prefer this format instead of the use of paper. Another example is ask directly to the communities of patients their preferences in regards activities in which we can involve them. Here you can see that the most preferred was the one related to patient-facing materials and documents. The second one, and it's really important, and as I said, we have a lot of room of improvement, it's the informed consent forms. They identify different areas and prioritize in terms to say, okay, we want to have a voice here because it's our role and we can provide an impact in the project. And this is the team that Ines mentioned at the very beginning of our youth council. The name is Kids Barcelona. We set up this group in 2015, and we involve them in general or cross-cutting projects of our clinical research area and also our innovation department. This team of young people, it's really an expert team because we train them in innovation, clinical trials, and many stuff. At the very beginning of the project, and annually also we do training, but every project in which they contribute, it's a new opportunity to learn for them, because we don't do the monthly sessions that we do once per month on Friday afternoon. We don't do directly working with a specific project. The first part of our sessions always are in regards to provide to them the right background and the right information about the disease, the project, and any information that they need before to contribute to the project. Some examples about activities that we have done with Kids Barcelona. This is a leaflet about recommendations from their perspective in terms of content and format of the consent of the minor or the assent. This is a very easy list of things that we can consider when we create this legal document. Nowadays, it's part of the instructions, the recommendations of our national agency. And as you can see in the slide, the document is accessible in English, but also, of course, in Spanish. We did time ago a cartoon, a comic. It's only 8 pages. You can read as a whole, or you can go specifically to one page, because every page has a title about the topic that it's covered. And it was so nice because we create the script based on the experience of some of the members of the Kids Barcelona team. They choose the characters of this comic. They are real doctors and real staff of our hospital. And it's a very nice tool because this format is more attractive for the young people, and it's easy for our doctors to explain what is a clinical trial, the benefit, risk, or why me, because this is a question that sometimes in this case the teenagers, they ask to themselves about why I need to be involved in a clinical study. This is another example. This is a game that we use to explain about the meaning of a phase 1 study or phase 4 or a placebo arm. And also the characters, the doctors and the staff that appear in this game are real professionals of our hospital. We work, as I mentioned, with many different methodologies, from focus groups or questionnaires or surveys, but I said that they are not very happy with these tools because creativity is not there and they prefer to participate in a more active way. We develop many different methodologies, but for me it's important today to present to all of you simulation. We have a very huge department in our hospital. We have different devices that simulate real patients, from babies or, as you can see here in the slide, a pregnant woman. We can simulate medical procedures. It's easy for us to do training to the new doctors like you using these tools, but we have seen also that we can use simulation for clinical trials, because in these studies sometimes we have complex medical procedures. You can see some photos here. Sometimes for us also it's important to train the staff, because they need to communicate very tough the information and help and to take decisions in very tough moments to the parents. Other pictures. Also, it helps us to analyze and organize the teamwork, because, as you know, time is important in some interventions. We use simulation also to train patients and families. We create, when we don't have, the right device, the device that we need, because we have a team creating these devices. For example, we did a clinical trial simulation of the consent process of a clinical study, and we create even the digital tools that were used. This is a medical procedure. This is the space where we create what we need for simulation. And here what I have, I suppose that the video it's working. It's an example about how this is organized, the methodology of simulation, because we have always real professionals in the simulation activities. When it's ethical and we can do it, we have patients and parents. When it's not ethical, we use, as you can see here, these devices, or we use actors. We have always observers. If you can see in the back in the screen, there are a lot of people. They are observers, they take notes, and everybody at the end of the simulation, it's part of a debriefing session in which we can discuss and see what was done right, what needs to be adjusted, or what we need to change it in a very radical way. For us, it's the opportunity to do in the clinical trial setting, the trial of the trial, and it's the right way to test things before to work with real patients. For example, we did simulation in a clinical trial to administer a radioactive treatment that required a very and complex organization of people, because this treatment arrived to the airport of Barcelona. We need to transfer this to the hospital in a specific time after cross the border of the airport. The drug was an intrathecal treatment, and everything was to be done in the right moment with the right people. And after do the simulation with a dummy drug, we saw things of the clinical trial protocol that were necessary to be adjusted. Other activities that we have done with patients, other examples, is this welcome kit that it's addressed to standardize the information that we offer to the patients and the families then when they initiate their participation in a clinical trial. It's in Catalan, the slide, but I can translate. The content is including this booklet explaining what is a clinical trial, the different types of designs, your rights, your commitments, etc. This is a card where we describe the name and the contact phone of the research nurse taking care of the patient. This is the patient diary, because not all the trials and less in the academic setting provide the right tool to report this information. And this is a small piece addressed specifically to the patients with the concept of gamification of the experience to be part of a clinical trial. It's a passport that helps the research nurses to anticipate what is going on in the next visit, which medical procedures are going to be performed, and once they have been performed, we put an stamp in the passport to the patient. And finally, something that it's really important, and it's at the end, the concept of the patient involvement in clinical research is that this is a right. We have the Convention of the Right of the Children that was published in 1989 by the United Nations and UNICEF, that includes two rights that are really important for us, the people working in health. The first one is the right to express the views of the patients. The other one, it's the right to access to the better standard of care. But for us, the people working in research, what we do is to try to adapt and translate these rights to the concept of the right to access to science. Sometimes we don't have an approved treatment. We don't have the opportunity to offer this to the patients, but there is a clinical trial. And beyond to involve these patients to the clinical trial and to provide to them the best experience, they have also the right to be involved before the study will start, providing their opinion and helping us, the people working in science, to create the best project for them in terms of experience. And this is basically what is all about in regards of patient involvement. It's a matter to recognize the rights of the children and the young people. Here, 2 slides with a summary of top tips. You will have the slides at the end, and these top tips are based in our experience working during many years in patient involvement in pediatrics. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Begonia, for your excellent presentation. Very complete, really interesting, different perspectives, and I'm sure that our master students will have some comments for you or some questions. So please, if someone wants to make any questions, you can do it now.
Happy to answer.
Hello, doctor. You are hearing me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you. My question is, I do think that we need to evolve towards more patient empowerment, and it's very positive. But do you believe in some situations patient empowerment might be harmful for clinical trial quality or even for the patient? Or is it always positive? Like, is there a limit to patient empowerment?
A limit. I think that it's part of our responsibility. Obviously, my talk was focused in clinical research, but I think that it's a responsibility of everybody working in health, even the primary care. We need to explain to the patients, children, young patients, adults, whatever the age, which is your condition, how you can take care of yourself or the person that you are taking care. I think that it's a matter to try to don't make it big distances in terms of decision also, because at some moments of the disease management, you need to take decisions. And we came from a very, at least in Spain, and I can imagine in other European countries, very paternalistic model, in which in some cases the decision of the doctor was the decision of the patient. And in pediatrics also, we need to think that the patients are minors, and we need to take into account also the parents. And if you don't have the right information, obviously you can take a decision, but probably it's not based in a process to deliver if it's the right one for you or not. I remember many patients that we have asked to them, why you decided to be involved in a clinical trial. How you remember the moment in which your doctor explained the assent and everything about the trial, and they said, okay, my parents agreed, the doctor say this is good for you, and I trust. I didn't read the document or I didn't make any question. And I think that it's important that everybody educate the patients, not only the children and the young people, make questions, because at the end, no, something that now we know that it's good for your disease, science advances, and probably new opportunities will come. And if you are ready, you will take the right decision. But if not, I have seen people looking for information on the internet, and the first thing that they found, it's the first thing that they trust, or they think that it's correct, general things. And still there is a big gap in terms of patient empowerment. And also the need that we have in pediatrics is that usually this information, it's not addressed to the children. And we need to create these cartoons, videos, and the formats that they like, because if not, they are not to access and to consume this information. Sometimes it's more efficient now a TikTok, video than, a leaflet. And we need to change and be, adjusted to the formats and the contents that they can easily understand.
Yes, and the patient's involvement will probably really depend on the type of disease. For example, people with chronic diseases will want to have more control because they have the disease all of their life. Maybe acute disease patients don't want to be involved as much because they don't have the knowledge and they trust the physicians, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that also it's a matter of the culture in which you are trained. For example, in our hospital, always, not in the case if the parents, they don't want, we explain the diagnosis to the patients, we explain what is going on, etc. It was a very interesting discussion in a focus group that I was time ago about this topic, communicate the diagnosis to the patients. And it was so nice because one of the teenagers that was there said, okay, if I go to the doctor and I'm visiting the oncology department or in the building for oncology, I know what I have. But still there are some, parents that they want to use the word cancer. And our teenagers, they are not silly. Sometimes they are so smart and, they know the treatments that are receiving, they know about the side effects. They digest in another way the information, but they want the information. And sometimes we take for granted that it's better if we protect them to know things, and probably what we are doing, it's not protecting, because they are probably more scared, they cannot make questions, and they look for information in other places. I think that share the information according to the age and not, communicate things that are important for the patients. It's part of, the culture in which we need to empower the patients.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Any other questions from your side? No. So I have just two comments, Begonia. In your presentation, you have discussed also the potential issue of retention of the participants in the trial, especially in long-term trials. So, do you have any specific activity or program or anything set up for this potential issue?
Yeah, something that we are working now to implement, it's psychological support sessions in studies, because it's a matter of the length of the trial, the disease, because there are chronic disease, there are complex and degenerative disease, and if the trial is long and also you have a placebo arm, it's tough to manage this very long time of young patients or kids in this trial. And we did a focus group session with our group of Kids Barcelona, and the same with the version that we have with parents. The name is Kids Parents. And they appreciated a lot in these complex studies to have the psychological support, because they need environments to share their experience with people that can understand this experience. Because, for example, also teenagers explain that in school, it's tough for them that the teachers and also the colleagues understand their disease, and also understand that beyond they have a disease, they need to go many times to the hospital because they are involved in something with the name of clinical trial. In general, they requested this psychological support, and we are in the way to implement it for parents and for patients. And in some conditions also, they have asked resources for the schools,
Yes, that was my question. If sometimes the teachers can be also involved.
Yes.
Right. The other thing I have here is also you have mentioned the huge importance of the awareness and perception, both for the participants but also for the healthcare professionals. So for the participants, you have already mentioned many activities, but what is your perception, and which kind of activities could the research centers do with the healthcare professionals for their awareness also, and then to explain better the involvement of the participants in research? Because as you said, it's really important that also they are fully aware of what is the importance of giving the
I think that this awareness can come internally. For example, in our hospital, we have done a lot of awareness communicating that we have a central model or central unit for clinical research, that it's open obviously for all the medical staff that they want to be involved in research, and they need to know also which projects are managed in the hospitals. There is a lot of awareness also done in medical societies and networks, because we have networks for infectious disease, networks the European level, and for pediatrics for rheumatology disease, etc. And also something that is important, and we have done in some areas, it's to work with primary care. Because, for example, for the studies of vaccines, we cannot involve our patients because they have diseases, and we need healthy volunteers for these studies. And here we have worked also with our network of pediatricians, but working in primary care, because we have a local network across our region.
Okay. My last question is, you have showed very interesting the simulation of the activities. How do you structure, how the center structure the funding for these kind of activities? Which kind of funding do you have? How they are supported?
Yeah, simulation, it's organized in objectives. You identify objectives or pain points in a project. For example, for us was so complex, the whole logistic process, to go to the airport, collect this radioactive drug, arrive to the place, deliver the treatment to the patient. In this case, also we make it complex, thinking that this patient was not from Spain, from another country. And beyond all the stuff that was involved, also we had a translator helping to communicate with the family and the patient, because they didn't spoke in the simulation scenario Spanish. And based in these objectives, in the recording, in the role of the observers, at the end, you create a report and you say, okay, this needs to be modified. For example, in this study, we saw that we need one more nurse beyond what was established, that we miss some information in order of to follow the right step-by-step process. We identify gaps and things that if you don't check it before, you will find when you have the right drug and the right patient, the real patient there. It's so useful also to be used as a training. For example, we do a lot of simulation in soft skills. It's not easy to communicate a diagnosis. We have a training course based in a simulation program to communicate bad news diagnosis to the patients, and the same, for example, in the process to inform about complex clinical trials. Simulation can have different applications. What is important is to define the objective, create the script, because it's like do a film. You need to have in mind how many actors do you need, record the scene and analyze afterwards.
But that is supported by the sponsor of the project, who supports all that.
For our project, it's an internal department, and we do when we need to change facilities. The simulation that I show you was in regards to change the ICU facility. That the old one that we had was open, and we moved to a new model that it's closed with crystal windows, but it's closed. And what we saw is how we can manage, in a complex situation, the staff, everything in this new facility. And this is supported internally by us.
Okay. Okay, so if there is no more comments or questions, thank you again, Begonia, for this excellent talk. I'm sure that everyone is very enthusiastic about this and other activities that we need to develop in the research centers. And thank you again. Have a great day, everyone, and hope to see you very soon.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.